Okay, so what does the sage have to say about Biden and Trump comparisons? I did the same type of comparison between these two that I did between the Dems and the Republicans, or the Labor and Conservative parties, as my UK friend mentioned to me. Anyway, so I know I make my videos kind of long, so this time I'm just going to read my notes. Stream of consciousness may not all make sense, but it will. Trying not to make the videos too long so you don't get too bored. So side-by-side comparisons between Biden and Trump. My first question was, what is their life seeking, and how did that life seeking get formed? Like, how did their psyche, the bulk of their psyche, get formed in their life perspective? I don't really know how to describe it, but what I got for Biden, what formed his psyche and his outlook on life. So I got hexagram 6 and some lines. His life mission, or his ego life mission, is to find peace through diplomacy. And because it's at the shadow frequency, it's peace through any means, kind of like a people-pleasing peace. This inner people-pleasing thing was born out of, right at the beginning of life. His whole psyche is based on emotional instability, particularly around male-female relationships, and particularly around females, the opposite sex. So something, the sage indicated that something in his early childhood, the major female role, caused emotional instability and created this constant inner conflict within him, that he's always trying to be diplomatic or please others, doing things that he thinks is right or the ego is right. And it's been a constant conflict, according to the hexagram, conflict between ego and what he truly wants. So he's been struggling with inner conflict this whole time. But also, it also created issues with females in his life. So I'm fairly certain that some of those allegations were true, that they're kind of denying his sexual cravings, but then maybe crossing boundaries. And the sage also stated there's been something gnawing at his consciousness for a long time. And I suspect that gnawing is his inner truth. And when he goes to make decisions, he always looks for the safe, rational, and most reasonable direction. Kind of like, what does the collective ego say? What is my rational mind saying? While knowing he's feeling inside there's an alternative, but he ignores it. And I think this lifetime of inner conflict about what he feels he wants to do compared to what the ego is telling him the collective wants from him, is partially, if not all, cause or related to this dementia. The mind is simply short-circuiting. It can't take it anymore. Even the mind is tired of the conflict, and he's just can't think anymore, right? And I really feel that even this presidency, a year ago or so, when I was looking into whether Biden would even run as a candidate, I felt his inner conflict, and he was a reluctant candidate. And I think he even mentioned it, that he wasn't going to run, he didn't want to run, but that the Democratic Party kind of forced him, and he kind of said, okay, it makes sense that they want. And this inner conflict is what's causing all of this dementia and inability to speak clearly, because true self is coming up against the mind. And so he makes gaps all the time, right? Okay, moving on. So inner conflict, Biden striving for peace through diplomacy, but it's ego diplomacy, always doing what the ego wants. Let's move on to Trump. Now, I did this questioning session over a week ago. This was before any information from Mary Trump's book about Trump came out. But that book, what's being said about how his father treated him, and I did a reading on him well over a year ago when I felt this. But anyway, the book confirms what I got from the sage, or not that the sage needed confirming, but I feel comfortable in sharing this. So Trump's life perspective, or his seeking, what he's constantly seeking is personal empowerment, genius, and superiority. And this was formed, his psyche was formed by a series of constant shocks, constant agitation, and the push for competition. The hexagram that I got from him was hexagram 51. And the 51st gene key is solely responsible for human competitiveness. But at the shadow level, it is not to be better, to better oneself, but simply to be first and appear superior to others. So this is an ego response to stave off any more shocks to the system. And these shocks that he's trying to stave off were created early in childhood, the sage indicated by the lines that came up for Trump. The sage indicates that the shocks were delivered to Trump in childhood by the father. Particularly, at first, the shocks were created so that Trump would see his father as the ultimate authority, yes, and to follow authority and to do everything that his father said. And then the shocks were to make him become the authority, to become the master. And so it indicated that he suffered shocks of domination and punishment, which has led to his outright rebellious and destructive behavior. Okay, moving on. Doesn't that explain everything? My next question, the answers this will get quicker. The next question was, what does Trump want to accomplish for America? And I got hexagram line 3, new beginnings. He wishes for America to bring back innovation, kind of this, it's called return to innocence, but it's like no work and all play, which I'm not sure I really feel for Trump, but not that he consciously knows this. Says he wants, it states here that wants America to stand in its own authority, be fully sovereign, be fully empowered and powerful. It's kind of like this dragon energy, fully actualizing our potential as a nation. Now, the sage indicated a couple lines for this hexagram 3, which fits so perfectly. So he has this vision, but Trump has some ego interference coming in. It says, the sage warns that the maiden is faithful, which means this refers to someone who is tempted to make deals to be faithful to another in exchange for advantages gained. He is a deal maker or deals with deal makers which have no intention but to steal from him and his good intentions. For all these good intentions, what he wishes to accomplish for America, because he is a deal maker, he can't pursue his good intentions, right? Because he wants ego gains. The sage also indicates that this new beginning that he wishes to make is actually the call of the collective ego. So he's kind of listening to the collective ego. Sorry, I lost my train of thought, which ultimately will lead to nowhere. He needs to embark on the path never trodden before and check with his inner truth and heart. That's the message from the sage. So what does Biden wish to accomplish for America? Biden gets hexagram 53, line 6, which line 6 is not an ego thing. It is a good fortune, great success, meaning there's no ego involvement here. Biden truly wishes for the development of our true selves, for the individual to be so connected with our true selves that we are evolving beyond our own evolution and expanding and able to evolve, to come into our fullness. It is very similar to Trump, but this is more on an individual level, that we're so aligned with what we truly want, that we radiate like the sun, kind of transcending our own opinions, our current opinions and judgments, transcending the ego, which ultimately leads into superabundance, kind of the end of evolution. And superabundance is when the ego dissolves and there's no more need to even improve on oneself because there's no self-love. But realistically, Biden is simply looking at individual development of our true self, pursuing our dreams, and beyond, evolving beyond ourselves, radiating our true nature. Okay, next question. I was kind of saying, how does Trump and or Biden see their own role, their own image in this being president? What is the image they see of themselves, or role that they see of themselves? So, and Biden and Trump, very similar, and there's a theme here. It's all very consistent. Trump sees himself as the realist and the teacher of how to, the bringer of peace, harmony, and prosperity, and that that he alone is the one, the special one with insights. And I didn't finish the sentence there in my notes. Anyway, he wishes to bring idealism back into its truest form for the individual, the ability for the individual to dream and see those dreams come into form. So this is what the role Trump sees of himself. Doesn't mean that that's what the sage sees of Trump. It's what Trump sees of himself, to bring back idealism to the individual, to fulfill our dreams, but that he is the special one to bring it. Okay, what is Biden's role? Biden's role is similar to idealism, but it's realism. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the hexagrams or gene keys. This is gene key 60 of realism. So Biden has more of a societal, he sees himself as bringing realism back to society, to bring decisiveness, conservatism, or restraint and resourcefulness back into society. He's here to bring an end to closed loop thinking and limitations by our own structures. And realism in gene keys and hexagram terms means not being real, but it's like magical thinking. We have to go beyond our current structures of thinking. And realism is being real in magical thinking, that he wants to create new structures, like get out of the box and make a new box so that all new kinds of ideas can be created within new structure of reality. I don't know if that makes sense, but for Gene Keys people, it would make sense. Let's see, let me read my notes. Let's see. Wants to end closed loops, limited thinking of the structures that we currently have. He wants to widen and expand our belief in magic, if you will, by creating broader structures that are holding spaces for new ideas and magic to emerge for the nation. Okay, now, last question. What is currently both of their greatest ego challenges? This is current time. And Trump's ego current challenge is hexagram 64, confusion. I think is so perfect. The sage indicates that he is at a point just before completion of his goal, so completion of his term. He has done all he could, and now it's time to let go and ask for help. Or that he should ask for help, but he probably won't. And so this will just lead to ultimate confusion and no help from the cosmos. And Biden's current ego challenge, the sage indicated that there is none. he gets hexagram 14, which is called possession in great measure, great power. That Biden at this point in his life has reached humility, has done and achieved a lot, has acknowledged through his own faith, he has, I believe, a Catholic faith, that he is not the doer, and he is humbled by all the help that his faith has provided to him. The accumulation and retention of power through skilled interactions, grace, and control. This is what the sage indicates for Biden. If you were to attach a shadow here, it would be that he has compromised some of his true dreams, denying his true self and compromising to what the collective wants from him. But in general, the sage was indicating that he has reached a point in his life of humility, and he has possession in great measure. All right, that was fast, hopefully to the point. I hope it made sense. I guess that's all to say.